82 degrees with clouds. Chesterfield Fence and Deck, your premier provider of fences, decks, patios, sunrooms, and more. Call for a free estimate, now offering 48 months interest-free financing on your next outdoor project. Chesterfield Fence and Deck, chesterfieldfence.com. It's 12:03. I'm Debbie Monterey, KMOX News.
This is the Gashouse Gang on 104.1 FM KMOX. Sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer. And by Anderson Hospital, a Newsweek World's Best Hospital. Now, the Gashouse Gang on KMOX.
Hey, your favorite baseball show is back with Nate Gatter. I'm Tom Ackerman. Our producers are Matt Pajeski and Frank Ladd. What's up, Nate? Filling in for Chris Ranji.
Not much. How you doing?
Doing well. You were great to fill in on Sports Open Line last week. Sorry, it was All-Star Week and there's nothing going on. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you know what? That we found things to talk about anyway. I love how easily you could hear Matt Pajeski. I mean, that was a loud laugh by his standards. I think we found plenty of things to talk about. If I was filling in during All-Star Week and the Cardinals had no trade deadline narrative at all, I don't know what we would have talked about. I would have been desperate. I would have had Dan Reardon doing like 3 segments every night on the Open Championship. It is, I used him for 2.
No, you did great, and it's always great to have you in. And there's a lot going on right now, big boy. I'll tell you what, 10 days till the trade deadline. It's July 21st. July 31st is the deadline, and I think it's pretty clear now that the Cardinals, but it's always been this way, regardless of where they were in the standings. I feel like I've been a broken record on this. It doesn't matter where they are in the standings. This is about 2026 and beyond. This is about, we use the word reset, rebuild, whatever. My word is rearrange. They need to rearrange the roster to put this team in position to be great for a long time.
I think rearrange is the perfect word. I think at times in the last couple of years, it's felt like rearranging, the deck chairs on the Titanic. It doesn't feel so much that way anymore because I think there's enough quality to be rearranged that you can do it in such a way that the roster comes out looking better. But the bottom line is the Cardinals have 2 major problems at the major league level. Number one, they have a bunch of pieces that don't fit together that well because they're all DHs and second baseman. And number 2, they have too much above average or good and not enough very good or great. And to me, those are the 2 mandates then for Chaim Bloom. But the good news is he's not taking over a rebuild. He's not taking over even a reload, I don't think. He is taking over a situation where he has the roster value, if you will. He has the human capital in terms of the players on his roster to move guys around and find other pieces that fit together better. And maybe to consolidate a couple of those guys in a move that gets a better player than he otherwise could get. Or maybe, one other way or another, you can go out and find that one marquee player that maybe you need. But the first thing that's very doable is just rearranging. And that's going to be priority number 1.
It has been Chaim Bloom's time to take over, Chaim time, if you will. And it has been for a while now. I mean, John Mozeliak has had this succession plan in place. Mozeliak was the one who targeted Chaim in the first place. And then went to Bill DeWitt Jr. and Bill DeWitt said, that's interesting you say that because I was going to bring him up to you. And then they came together and decided, let's bring him in as an advisor with the thought that eventually they could maybe have him succeed John Mozeliak as president of baseball operations. And that's what's happened. And so now they are going to come together at this trade deadline. For people who think that you should just push John Mozeliak aside, don't understand what John Mozeliak's job is. He's the president of baseball operations, and he does more than just make trades and sign free agents. He runs the entire operation, everything. So you have to have him in place so that Chaim Bloom can do his job, which is right now to restructure the minor league system. What, you want Chaim like talking to everybody in the office about what their job is in 26 and beyond? You want him chartering planes and helping with travel and doing all these things that Mo oversees? He does everything. So Bloom, Mo's job is to allow Bloom to hit the ground running in 2026. That includes speaking to the media. That includes being the face. That includes taking all the arrows and all the hits. And I'm not, buttering up John Mozeliak. I'm just giving you, it's plain and simple. Chaim Bloom is the president of baseball operations beginning November 1st. And until then, Mozeliak is going to be involved, but don't think that Bloom isn't part of the decision-making process. The guy's got his stamp all over this draft. If you looked at some of these pitchers they're bringing in, It's pretty obvious. And then on the other side of things, you don't think they're going to run by or he's going to be involved in this trade deadline? And Nate, let me get your thoughts on the trade deadline, because everyone wants to know, are the Cardinals buyers or sellers? I believe they're both. And what I mean is they are going to make deals that benefit them for 2026. These are deals where they're going to trade the assets to gain assets and not anything more than that. They have to make moves or the fans are going to be even angrier than they are now. They can't do nothing. They will do something, and it will be all about the future. But it's not a teardown.
Right. It's definitely not a teardown. My feeling is that I would classify them as sellers still, but they're sellers with a mindset of short term, right? They're interested in buying guys who are young major leaguers or who are AAA guys who have had an appearance or two and are just not, there's no spot for them with their major league team. It's one thing that Kevin Wheeler and I talked about a bunch on Redbird Rush Hour last week, is there are teams like the Dodgers, for example, that have a bunch of guys at AAA or who are kind of quad A guys who have gone back and forth who would clearly be major leaguers for the Cardinals, but because the Dodgers rotation looks the way it does, these are Dodgers starting pitching prospects mostly. They don't have a consistent spot in the Dodgers rotation the way they probably would in the back end of the Cardinals rotation. You're looking for guys like that. I would still classify them as sellers in the sense that they're trading guys who would help them the rest of this year. They are most likely making their 2025 roster worse for the remainder of this season. I have a hard time thinking the deadline goes by and the Cardinals aren't a less competitive baseball team on August 1st than they are now for the purposes of 2025, but they're not looking for prospects in the broad sense of a guy who might be in the majors in 4 years. They're looking for guys who are going to contribute to competing for a division championship next year, 2027, that sort of timeline. And to that point, you started to bring it up. To me, this is not reporting or anything. I don't have any sources. This is just my own feeling on how I would approach this if I were the Cardinals. If we assume that they are, at least in the sense that I'm describing it, primarily sellers now, Chaim Bloom in some ways should be taking over right now, to me. Again, it makes sense for Mozeliak to be serving the functions that he is to sort of clear the path, if you will. He's kind of lead blocking in some ways, but Chaim Bloom should be the primary baseball operations decision maker on any deals that are seller deals at the deadline, because John Mozeliak is not going to be around to deal with the consequences of those things. And the Cardinals understand that. Everything
should be geared towards Bloom and 2026 and beyond. Every little thing. They got too many DHs, first and foremost, their rotation has been just brutal. I mean, Palante's getting shelled. Sonny Gray even got shelled. Michaelis is throwing pitches down the middle, and Suarez is hitting him a million miles. I mean, it's obvious what we're watching. So the rotation needs to be fixed and change the look of how they approach that. But also too many DHs, too much of this, too much of that. They have to change the look of this roster, and they have to do it pronto. And it's 10 days away from the deadline, and there will be some things that'll happen, and then more will happen in the offseason. It's going to be a very, very active, interesting, fascinating offseason with Chaim Bloom at the helm. And this is a franchise with great history, a great fan base, and a team that has very high standards and always will. They have to go win. That's how you're going to bring people back. This isn't an automatic that you're going to just have a flood of people coming back because John Mozeliak is riding off into the sunset. You got to give them some hope and give them something to root for. And I very much look forward to the next 6 months to see what this team looks like heading into spring training 2026. It's not going to be an automatic snap of the fingers. Suddenly they're a World Series contender, but I think the look and the feel of the team is going to be different, and it is past due. It is past due.
Yeah, and the good news is I think they have started to take those steps. I don't understand the feeling that John Mozeliak is a lame duck in running baseball operations. I guess he is in the literal sense of the term, that his tenure is coming up and that's going to be the end of his time in St. Louis, but everything has served a purpose. It's not, he would be more of a lame duck in the traditional sense if they had announced he's done after this year and they hadn't brought anybody else in. They didn't have a succession plan, right? This is because then it would serve no purpose. You just have a guy who's sort of steering a ship aimlessly, and who knows, what the next guy's going to want. This has been a collaborative process that's allowed Chaim Bloom the opportunity to familiarize himself with the organization in a way that he wouldn't have been able to otherwise. He's had a unique opportunity, frankly, for somebody in any field who's at his level of executive leadership to be able to get almost 2 full years, certainly 1 full year, where he can familiarize himself with every piece of the organization in a way that he just would not have time to do if he came in and on day one in St. Louis, he was running the entire operation. And secondly, it's allowed for his voice to be part of the plan. And I think what the plan already was would have worked with almost anybody they would have brought in, which was, let's start to clear out this deck a little bit. Let's start to create a canvas that is a little more workable, that has essentially what they've done is assemble a blank canvas and a color palette for Heim, in my mind. That's been the goal, is let's make sure that he's not taking over a painting that already looks terrible. Let's try to get him something clean to work with and give him as many options as for how he wants to paint on this as possible. And I think they've mostly succeeded in doing that. Obviously, the big moves are still in front of them, right? The biggest changes that need to happen to transform this into a 2026 NL Central Championship team are still in front of them. They haven't done it yet, but they've made the smaller moves that have to be made first.
And the big move, of course, of restructuring the minor league system, which they overlooked for years. They thought it would never break, and it broke. And other teams passed it. And before you tell me that the Cardinals, because they're a medium-sized market, have to draft and develop, and that's the only way they can succeed. The richest team in baseball, who is it? The Dodgers? What do? All the time they draft and develop. And they develop and they develop. They have an arsenal, one after the other, coming out of that superb minor league system that is going to be the envy of baseball. But the Cardinals, all they need to do is look at the Milwaukee Brewers and what they were able to do with their development and how they have put themselves in prime position right now, tied with the Cubs atop the NL Central. That's what you want. You want to crank out prospect after prospect and then fill the holes with free agents, and the Cardinals will have the resources to do that. They are not a poor franchise. They are a franchise with some money and some resources. Fortunately for them, they've taken those resources and put them back in the right place, which is the minor league system. Technology, teaching, fundamentals, coaching, have to do it, and it has been underway for the last couple of years, actually, and hopefully for years to come. We're going to take a break. When we come back, talk more money when it comes to baseball. Mike DeCourcy has penned a column about an MLB salary cap. Is it realistic? And it does have some opposition. DeCourcy shreds that opposition in his column, and he will talk to us about it coming up next. The Gashouse Gang with Nate Gatter. I'm Tom Ackerman. We're sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, and by Anderson Hospital. John Rooney is with us today. Bob Nightingale of USA Today is with us today. It's all next.
Named one of Newsweek's world's best hospitals for 2025, Anderson Hospital is your hospital for life, delivering exceptional, compassionate care to families across the Metro East. From emergency services to specialized treatments, our dedicated team supports your health at every stage. Experience world-class care close to home. Discover the difference at andersonhospital.org.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, it's Matt, your leaf filter trusted pro. Gutters are an often neglected part of the home. They're also one of the most important. Clogged, overflowing gutters can cause serious problems like foundation damage or basement flooding, which can cost thousands of dollars to fix. Let's face it, cleaning gutters yourself is not only a hassle, it can be dangerous. But when you get Leaf Filter, you'll never have to worry about cleaning clogged gutters again. Get started today by visiting leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free inspection. If you decide to move forward, we'll professionally clean, realign, and seal your gutters before installing our patented stainless steel micro mesh system. Leaf Filter keeps out everything but the water. And it's backed by a lifetime transferable no clogs warranty. So you're protected for good. We're in your neighborhood and ready to help. Visit Leaf Filter today for a free inspection and estimate, and you could save up to 30%. Visit leaffilter.com/deal. That's leaffilter.com/deal.
Chris Ranji for Siteman Cancer Center, and you have to know that you are somebody's favorite person, and your health matters not just to you, but it matters to people who care about you. Getting screened early for any cancer, whether it's colon or breast cancer, prostate cancer, or lung cancer, it is important to do that. Siteman has set up a website called GetScreenedNow.com. And when you go to it, it's going to help you find a location nearer you. If you live a little farther out from St. Louis and don't want to make the trip into the city, you can get screened closer to home. GetScreenedNow.com, because for me, I'm over 45. It's time for that colonoscopy. Third leading cause of cancer-related deaths in both men and women. And GetScreenedNow.com will help you find a location that is good for you. Doing it early, really, really important. GetScreenedNow.com.
Hey guys, Kevin Wheeler for 213 Complex, which is available at supplement superstores. Look, 213 Complex is the most effective and powerful all-natural weight loss supplement ever developed, and here's why. It optimizes thyroid function, and it boosts your metabolism 24 hours a day, while you're sleeping too. So you're burning more stored body fat. Also getting that appetite and craving control that I love. You get all-day focused energy with no jitters, so all you need to do is get out to supplement superstores, tell them Kevin Wheeler sent you in. They'll knock 30% off 213 Complex. Find your location at supplementsuperstores.com.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you've been injured in a car accident, call America's largest injury law firm. For over 35 years, my mission has been to deliver more for our clients, to deliver more for you. Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
You asked, we delivered. KMOX, now on FM. Crystal clear sound at 104.1 FM.
With Nate Gatter, I'm Tom Ackerman on the Gashouse Gang. What a show today. Voice of the Cardinals, John Rooney, coming up at 12:30. Bob Nightingale, USA Today baseball columnist, at 12:45. Right now, we are joined by longtime columnist Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News. Also does a great job on Big Ten Network. But for right now, talking some baseball with him. A column, the headline, Players Association spin on MLB salary cap easily disproven by growth, success of other leagues, citing the NFL, the NBA, and the NHL. Hello, Mike, and welcome back to KMOX.
Oh, it's nice to be back. How are you?
It's always great. I'm doing well, and it's always good to hear your voice. Tell me about this column and how this began. Is Tony Clark, obviously representing the MLBPA, is going to be very strong against a salary cap?
Yeah, but here's the thing. The Baseball Players Association opposition to a salary cap is great for a very small portion of their membership. It's great. It's phenomenal. Did you know that 10% of Major League Baseball players earn more than 70% of all the money paid to Major League Baseball players? Does that sound like a great thing for baseball players in general? Because it's really not. That's the part of this that I've been an advocate of a salary cap in baseball for well more than a decade. I've talked about it. We used to do videos for the sportingnews.com site back when video was a big thing for internet sites to be in. And I did one then probably around 2016, 17, somewhere in there. So I'm not new to this. But when Tony Clark spoke last week at the All-Star game and said the pejorative things he said about a salary cap system, the vast majority, or I didn't get every single statement, but of the ones that were shared publicly in the articles that I read, could disprove just about every single one of them, because all the leagues, NHL, NFL, NBA, have continued to grow as leagues. They have had tremendous competitive balance in all of them in terms not of just differentiation of winners. It's not just a function of, well, this year the Yankees won, next year the Dodgers won, then the Cubs won. It's not about that. It's about, can the Kansas City Royals compete as well as the Los Angeles Dodgers? And baseball, that's clearly not the case.
Mike, Nate here. I think a lot of people on this issue kind of talk past each other, because to me there are two different distinct issues. One is, would a salary cap be good for the sport in the abstract? Would it be good for fans in the abstract, especially the fans of anybody outside of those biggest 5 or 10 teams with the highest payrolls? And then there's, is it or could it be practicable? And the second one, I think, is where a lot of people say it can't. A lot of people who are saying they're against the salary cap are really saying, I don't think it can be done. Do you think it is possible for Major League Baseball to go from where it is now, being the most free market sports entity in the country and maybe the world, to something that looks more like the NFL, where the highest and lowest spending teams are separated by 10% of the cap?
Yeah, see, I don't see why it can't be done. And the reasoning is that it's better for the sport, which I've already outlined. I mean, and I can go into further detail when you think about the fact that there have been 3 champions in this century from outside the top 15 markets in Major League Baseball. In the NFL, it's 13 in this period of time, and 10 of those were from outside the top 20. I mean, we had New Orleans, Indianapolis, Kansas City's won multiple, Pittsburgh won multiple in that period. You don't see that happen in Major League Baseball. The Cardinals are the best exception to that. They have the two of the 3 championships from outside the top 15 markets. But the Cardinals situation is not easily replicable in other cities. They don't have the fact that it's a nice sized city that only has 2 teams. That's a big advantage for the Cardinals in terms of their success. But if you look at it from that standpoint, and then there's the other standpoint of what's best for the players. 50% by my count of active current Major League Baseball players on the rosters today, or at the time I did the column last week, 50% made less than $1 million a year. That's hard to believe given the amount of revenue that's generated in Major League Baseball. 36% of them earn less than the National Hockey League minimum. There's half as much money in hockey as there is in baseball, and they have more than a third of their playing force making less than the NHL minimum. That alone should be a colossal embarrassment to the the MLBPA membership. They should be horrified by that number, but they don't seem to care at all as long as Max Scherzer and Bryce Harper and players like that and Shohei can cash the hugest checks. That seems to be all that matters.
How did we get to a point where the number 1 pick in the MLB draft makes significantly less money, and I mean significant with a capital S, than those in the NBA and NFL?
Because it's all oriented towards service time. And so if you haven't paid your dues, I mean, talk about a sport that makes you pay your dues. If you don't have the service time, you don't get paid. And the fact that Paul Skeens, who has started each of the 2 All-Star games in which he was in the league as a starting pitcher, will make nearly a third of what Caleb Williams will have made over his first 2 seasons in the NFL. By the end of this calendar year, he'll have made less than half of what Stephon Ricochet will have made in the NBA, and a little more than a third of what Caleb Williams will have made. It's preposterous, and Major League Baseball seems totally. The Players Association seems totally content with that situation. I don't know how the membership is. I know how the union structure is because it's oriented again toward the wealthiest players. And those with the track toward that, but the rank and file in Major League Baseball is not getting a good deal, a much lesser deal than what they get in the NHL and NBA. And one can quibble about the fact that the NFL doesn't have guaranteed contracts, or as guaranteed a contract, but they don't have their young players having to force long careers in order to get paid. They get paid by merit and by expected merit through the draft.
Mike, how low would the salary cap have to be in Major League Baseball to achieve the kind of more egalitarian sport that you're imagining? And how high would the corresponding floor have to be in order for the players not to get hurt by the overall number of dollars in circulation in the league decreasing?
Well, one thing that the way most of the salary caps have been established is there's a set group of revenue items, whatever it might be. Obviously, it's going to be broadcast and ticket revenue, but then there are usually some others, merchandising, things like that, that are put into this pool, and then they are split in some way. Right now, Major League Baseball gets a lesser percentage of revenues than those athletes in any other sport. That's another figure that should embarrass the union. They make less of the revenue than NFL, NBA, NHL players make. That shouldn't be the case. They should be making just as much, if not more. If they're the strongest union, why are their players making a lesser percentage? So you put that number out there, whatever it is. And I think the obstacle to this is as much the revenue sharing that would be required, the level of revenue sharing that would be required to make this really viable. But it really, in order to make this the sport that it should be, where you don't wake up in Pittsburgh on April 1st every year, or in Cincinnati or Kansas City, and think it's going to take a miracle for us to win. In order for that to happen, you'd have to have that defined percentage of revenue somewhere around 50. And then the cap would, wherever that places the cap, then the floor is usually 20% below that. And that would raise salaries in Major League Baseball beyond a doubt. And it would raise the competitiveness of all the teams. Now, it doesn't guarantee that people in Pittsburgh are going to have a good team, or people in Chicago are going to have a good team. At that point, it becomes about how well do you execute, just as it is in the NFL. The Oklahoma City Thunder are in the 42nd market, and they just won the NBA championship. And we've had 7 different champions from all over the spectrum in the NBA over the last 7 years. So we've seen that sport continue to increase in parity as their salary cap system becomes a more of a true cap system than it had been in the past.
We've hit 12:30, so I'll just say this. The last line of Mike's column, if Clark gets his way, that won't change, is an ominous picture when you think about the fans not feeling like their team has a chance to be successful. It's worth a read for sure at sportingnews.com. Mike DeCourcy is worth a watch during college basketball, I can tell you that, but that's a story for another day. Mike, I love the baseball discussion. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming on KMOX, as always.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Great to have Mike DeCourcy on the Gashouse Gang. Check him out. When we come back, the voice of the Cardinals, John Rooney. Bob Nightingale, USA Today. He had a long column out recently about trade deadline discussions. There was a lot of Cardinals in there. We'll discuss it with Bob. Don't go anywhere. The Gashouse Gang, a fresh one for you here on Monday.
Home title theft. It's on the rise, and it's devastating if it happens to you. Listen to the alarming words of an actual home title thief.
I don't need to know your date of birth and social security number. All I have to do is go to public records, create a document, and file that document. And then I can borrow against the house or sell the house. You may have no clue until you find out that your house has been sold, or till several loans or several banks are foreclosing on you.
For pennies a day, Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier of protection around your home's title with 24/7 monitoring. The instant they detect any tampering, you'll get an alert. And that's bad news for home title thieves. So when's the last time you checked on the title to your home? Find out if you're already a victim with your free title scan and complete title report. $100 value free with sign up. Just go to HomeTitleLock.com and sign up in minutes. That's HomeTitleLock.com. HomeTitleLock.com.
Weather sponsored by SNL Coins. We went from a flood advisory, and we're still in it, by the way, until 1 o'clock. Just tons of rain overnight and early this morning, into a heat advisory, as we're going to crank up to 87 for the high today. But we're in an extreme heat warning until Thursday, with real field temperatures reaching 105, 110 each day until then. Right now, we have a mostly cloudy sky. It's 83 degrees downtown at the Arch.
SNL Coin. We buy gold and silver coins, silver and gold jewelry. Also buying gold-filled and silver plates. Before you sell, call SNL. 314-544-3600. 314-544-3600. SNL Coin.
Hey guys, Glover here with my friends at Michael's Baths. Your bathroom might be small, but fixing it can feel huge. Cracked tiles, outdated fixtures, and that tub that's seen better days. Well, at Michael's Baths, we're going to get you the bathroom of your dreams at a price that you can afford. Mike usually comes in 30 to 50% less than the national companies. He is local. He is family owned and operated. He's done this for 30 years, and he is a great guy. 636-775-0800. 636-775-0800 or michaelsbaths.com.
Hospital Sisters Health System isn't just in your community. We're your neighbors, your friends, your support system. From your first visit, you'll experience expert care backed by the strength of our entire health network. At HSHS, we put your health first, with medical expertise and kindness that makes you feel valued at every step. HSHS, connected to our community, committed to your health. Visit hshs.org/caring to learn more.
If something happens to you, what happens to your family? Will they struggle financially? Will they be able to afford the home you built together? With Ethos, you can get life insurance coverage in minutes. Get up to $2 million in coverage for as little as $2 a day. All online with no medical exam. Just answer a few health questions. Get your free quote at ethos.com/life. That's ethos.com/life. Rates may vary. Billed monthly. Sample rate 10-year term life policy for a 35-year-old healthy non-smoking male.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com/facts or a store near you. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Now the John Rooney Conversation on KMOX. Sponsored by Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. And if you're a Missourian, we're for you.
Always love the visits with the voice of the Cardinals, John Rooney, with Nate Gatter. I'm Tom Ackerman. Hello, John. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Tom. Nate, good to be with you.
Good to be with you, my friend. We have Bob Nightingale coming up at 12:45, so we're going to save all the trade speculation for him. But I want to start with a positive. I'll start with a positive, and that is I'm so happy for Brendan Donovan. I just think the All-Star experience is beyond anything you can imagine. I can't even imagine as a player what that's like to be in the same clubhouse with all of those people, all of those minds and talents. That had to have been an incredible experience for our guy, Donnie.
I'm sure he took advantage of that, Tom. I'm sure he talked to as many guys as he possibly could and got to meet some players that he wanted to visit with and really wouldn't have the chance when you're playing them head-to-head, or you don't even play them that much at all. So I'm sure it was a great experience for him, and to have 2 hits, the only player with a multi-hit game.
John, to the extent that you're able to observe it firsthand, whether it's in the clubhouse, on the plane, wherever else, how does a roster bounce back from as disappointing a weekend as the Cardinals just had?
Well, it has to begin with starting pitching, Nate. That's where it has to begin. You're only as good as that day's starting pitcher. And for most of the season, with this basically young team, sprinkled in with a few pretty good veterans, you've had a razor-thin margin for an error or a mistake. And you can point to all kinds of mistakes from the starting staff, whether it's untimely home run balls like yesterday, where Suarez hit 2 of them. But you can't expect an offense to keep coming back when you're down 4 and 5 runs all the time. So it has to begin with starting pitching. But they're keeping their heads up. That's one thing I can say about them. They're keeping their heads up. They're getting their work in. They're going out there. They're trying to execute. Another place was the Herrera strikeout. After the Cardinals had the bases loaded yesterday on walks, they only got 1 run. If he comes through there or lays off a pitch and maybe gets another walk, who knows? That might have been a big comeback yesterday. But the basic problem being too far behind too early.
No question. You know, I talked to Adam Wainwright yesterday on the show, and he talked about that specific thing, that the starting pitcher is the most important person, and they knew that, and he knew that going into each day, and they all talked about it, and the Cardinals just don't have it right now. However, starting pitcher tonight's Michael McGreevy. He's an interesting one and somebody that I think shows a lot of promise. What are you seeing in Michael McGreevy, John Rooney?
I think he's handling the ups and downs of being a spot starter at the big league level and having to go back to AAA and pitch there and be ready for the next start. He's kind of been the safety valve for the starting pitching. And he's in there tonight, and Matthew Liberatore will be pitching over the weekend at home when the Cardinals play San Diego. But I think he's handled that really, really well. The last outing wasn't as good as some others for McGreevy, but that's almost to be expected. The pitcher isn't on his A game every night out there, even the great ones. So I'm glad he's getting another opportunity. I hope that he sticks here pretty soon, and we can see him on a more regular basis. And that may be the plan coming up maybe toward August or September.
John, you've been in the big leagues a long time. Is there a different vibe in the couple of weeks leading up to the trade deadline than there is other times a year?
Well, I think there's some talk about it, Nate. I mean, everybody speculates, but I think Ricky Horton covered it very well over the weekend because he was a trade deadline guy a time or two. And you can't really let it consume you because you have a job to do. You're still on that team where you are. You're in that clubhouse. You go out and perform. And I think past the, well, who's going to go where or just general talk they have in the clubhouse. And if you're one of those individuals who feels like he might be traded, it's a wait and see right now. But when the game's on, that's what the players have to do.
Cardinals going to Coors Field. Just a quick question to you about the Rockies, who have been through the ringer, without a doubt. Still a wonderful place to visit and play, that's for sure. But a quirky place, isn't it, John? You never know what you're going to get at Coors Field in Denver.
Well, it's so big. There's so much area to patrol in the outfield. And I remember Brendan Donovan playing left field in a series out there right after he first came up. And I think he could have used a week off after that, patrolling so much area from the left field foul line out to left center field. And it helps when you have speed in the outfield with Victor Scott out there. And I'd have to say Burleson's done a really nice job, whether he's played left field or right field. And Jordan Walker has improved dramatically, and it's good to see him swinging the bat much better. So that timing could be good going into Coors Field, where it's not just a home run park, but it's a hitter's park because of all the massive space and the big alleys in the outfield. But don't let this Colorado team hang around. That's the key. They're not playing all that well. They've had some stretches where they've played better, but the best way is to go out there and score some early runs, get them down early and keep them down, and win games you're supposed to win against teams like the White Sox, where the Cardinals had to come back a couple of times to beat them, but they swept that series in Chicago. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to do the same going into Coors Field. But don't let them hang around because they'll come back to beat you.
That's good advice. John Rooney, the voice of the Cardinals, always great having you on the show. Appreciate the visit very much. Have a great day and week.
Okay, Tom, sounds good. And Mike Claiborne and Ricky Horton will be on the call in Colorado. And I'll be back with the team on Thursday when we're home to play San Diego.
Always good to hear you on the broadcast, but they are holding down the fort. Ricky and Claibs with Ryan Schulte at the controls in that visiting broadcast booth. That's John Rooney with us on KMOX. When we come back, Bob Nightingale, USA Today baseball columnist. I have been talking to him for so long at the trade deadline. I can remember when he helped break the Scott Rowland trade on KMOX. That's how far back that goes. That was 2003. Back in a moment, 12:42. The Gashouse Gang is sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, and by Anderson Hospital. We'll be right back.
We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and we're here for all of life's wins. Like when you get a new car, or new boat, or new driver, or when your son moves out, but your mom moves in, or you find out you're expecting again, or when one rental property turns into 2, then 20, or you realize they're all in Tornado Alley. Life is full of life events, so call your Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance agent or visit mofbinsurance.com to find an agent near you, and we'll make sure you have the right coverage for each of life's wins.
We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and we're for the people of Missouri, in good times and in bad. We're from Missouri families and Missouri communities. We're for giving back to those communities and lifting people up. And when Missouri weather rips through our state, we're for helping put back the pieces. We're for brighter days and new tomorrows. We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. And if you live in Missouri, we're for you.
Dive into adventure this summer at the St. Louis Aquarium's Summer of the Shark. Get face to fin with some of the ocean's most awe-inspiring creatures in shark-themed exhibits, jaw-dropping displays, and interactive experiences for the whole family. Whether you're a fin-tastic fan or just curious, there's hands-on fun and fascinating facts around every corner at the St. Louis Aquarium. Don't miss your chance to make a splash. Plan your visit today at stlouisunionstation.com. That's stlouisunionstation.com. Calling all soccer fans, the Premier League is coming to STL. St. Louis City SC will host English Premier League giants Aston Villa Football Club Wednesday, July 30th, 7:30 p.m. at Energizer Park. Reserve your seat for this historic match now at stlcitysc.com/tickets. Wednesday, July 30th at 7:30 p.m. That's stlcitysc.com/tickets. St. Louis City versus Aston Villa, presented by Purina.
The Siteman Cancer Center Spotlight, how an innovative immunotherapy is showing promise against aggressive T-cell cancers. Joining us is Dr. John DiPersio.
Until very recently, until this paper and a few other groups in the world have sort of developed approaches for T-cell malignancies, there was no hope for patients who relapsed. There were no effective therapies. This is a way of treating these patients that would normally have no other recourse.
For more information, visit siteman.wustl.edu.
Experience the magic of the Fabulous Foxes 2025-2026 Broadway season, which includes the return of St. Louis favorite, The Phantom of the Opera, and the spellbinding spectacular Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. And right now, KMOX has your chance to win a pair of season tickets for the 2025-2026 season. Prize package includes a pair of tickets for all 8 shows in the subscription package. Register now online at KMOX.com/contests for your chance to win.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-day kitchen and bath.
Marilyn Faser recommends 3-day kitchen and bath.
Working with Dave was an absolute delight. Once everything was scheduled, everything went perfect.
Have you ever had a remodel done before?
About 25 years ago, and it was a nightmare.
Was 3-day kitchen and bath on time?
There was no delays. Everything was on time. All the deadlines were met. Everything came at once.
Would you recommend 3-day kitchen and bath to your friends and neighbors?
I highly recommend them to anybody.
Top quality products and craftsmanship in 3 days or less. Call 3-day kitchen and bath. Always on time as promised, at the price promised, and your job comes with complete satisfaction guarantee. No ifs, ands, or buts. Visit their website at 3daykitchen.com. That's 3daykitchen.com.
3-day kitchen and bath.
Hey, it's Matt Pauley for i3 Broadband, the internet provider in the Pauley household. I think you'd love it if you had them as well. We've got the 2 gig package at our home, 2 gig upload, 2 gig download mirrored, and we're spending less money than we did with the cable company for lesser service. Plus, right now, they've got savings over $400 beyond their already low standard pricing. You got questions? They've got answers. Call 877-976-0711, and they've got people there who can answer all your questions, or head to their website, i3broadband.com.
The success you've already had matters at University of Maryland Global Campus because we're a school for real life. An accredited state university, UMGC lets you earn up to 90 credits toward a bachelor's for prior learning and relevant life and work experience, or transfer up to 12 credits toward a master's. We offer affordable tuition and online and hybrid courses. Classes start August 13th. Apply now and save with no application fee. Learn more at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chev.
Now back to the Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling and by Anderson Hospital on 104.1 FM KMOX.
With Nate Gatter, I'm Tom Ackerman. Our producer is Matt Pajeski, and joining us is USA Today baseball columnist, one-time St. Louis resident, actually. Bob Nightingale is joining us on KMOX. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Nate. How you guys doing?
Great. Always great to talk to you. I was just telling Nate off the air about the time that you scooped us on the Scott Rowland trade back in 2003 when Bernie and I were doing a show together. That's how far back we go. Actually, before that, you've been doing this?
Yeah, I used to cover the Kansas City Royals, so I've been Midwest person for a while. I used to live in Minneapolis, so love the Midwest.
Yes, you do. And I'm not sure that there is a rolling trade out there. Eugenio Suarez is going somewhere. I'd be fine if I never see him again. That would be totally fine. I'll watch him land with the Cubs or something, right? Where is Suarez headed, do you think?
I would think out east. I would think either Yankees, Tigers. I don't see the Cubs. I think it's going to be too expensive as far as what you have to give up. But the Yankees have been watching him for quite a while. So, the Diamondbacks are at 500. If they win 2 out of 3 or sweep the Astros, then they got to say, you know what, we're gonna wait till July 30th or 31st.
Bob, obviously this conversation in St. Louis has been going on for a little while on, not only what the Cardinals might do, but what should their mindset even be. Getting swept in some ways helps clarify that. Certainly if the Cardinals don't have a really, really good week, in some ways they're making the decision easier by just dropping all the way out of the race or getting all the way into it rather than staying right on the periphery. But are there names who you feel very confident are getting moved from St. Louis no matter what? Or do you think the Cardinals are still going to hold off for another week and see where they're at?
Well, I think they'll hold off, but, they look so bad in Phoenix against the Diamondbacks. And, they were playing over their head, I think, the first half. So I'd be very surprised if they don't trade Ryan Helsley. They'll get a lot for him. He's not having the year he had a year ago. So many teams need a back-end starters or closers that Helsley, I think, they'll get a ton for. You got a new GM coming in next year anyway. He's going to do them for the future. They're not going to give Helsley a qualifying offer. It's almost like they have to trade him.
Before we get back into some of the names, and I've got a bunch of them, but let me throw that name Chaim Bloom to you. How do you see that working between the Cardinals, John Mozeliak, Chaim Bloom, and all the other decision makers at the deadline?
Well, I think it's going to be Chaim Bloom's call. I mean, he's kind of building his team for the future. I'm sure Mo would probably like to keep him because this is his last year, but I'm sure Chaim is saying, wait a minute now. We don't, even when we somehow made the playoffs, not going to go deep by any means. But I think he's thinking, hey, get something for Helsley now. If they're going to give him a qualifying offer, it'd be a different story. But I can't see them giving $23 million to a closer to a closer in Helsley. So that's why I think that Chaim Bloom will say, hey, as much as it might hurt, we got to make this move.
That's interesting, Bob, because I think the consensus around here when we've been having this conversation is kind of operating under an assumption that they would give him a qualifying offer and therefore that whatever was available at the deadline would have to be pretty compelling. And because it's not only is it worth giving up Helsley, but is it worth giving up Helsley plus a competitive balance round selection? Your feeling is that would be, if you were the Cardinals, would you be nervous that Helsley would even take that? You think his market is going to be soft enough in the offseason that he'd take a 1 year, $23 million deal over, I don't know, 3 years or 4 years and $60 million or 4 years, $70 million, whatever else might be out there?
I do. I think he would take it. If you're talking about if he gets when the qualifying offer is going to be 22 or 23, that's probably making the highest paid reliever in baseball history, for one season. I just can't see them doing that. Because I think Helsley would take that. It's just way too much money to turn down. No matter, if you get a 3-year deal before, you're not going to get something averaging 22, 23 a year. So that's why I think they move him.
Bob, if Ryan Helsley is number one, I have to think Steven Matz is 1A. Wouldn't you say, in terms of value moving?
I would say, a distant too. I think Helsley's got, Matz is more of a crapshoot. What are you going to get out of him? Is it going to be like a fifth starter for summer? Is it going to be a middle reliever to possible setup? So no, I think a huge drop off after Helsley. I think Helsley brings in some quality stuff. Where Matz, I think, brings in, particularly his contract too, just fringy type run splits.
Bob, outside of those sort of expiring contract relievers, the Helsleys, Matons, and Matzes of the world, who stereotypically are the first wave of deadline chips, is there anybody else on the Cardinals roster who you think is maybe not likely to move, but who you think is more likely than the general public is perceiving him to be?
Not really. I think that's it. I'm sure in the off season, come winter time, you might listen to guys, who are under contract and saying, okay, could we get could we get something for these guys? I think if Arenado gets moved, it would be, during the winter. At least you got, 30 teams or, 2,900 teams looking at things. But no, I mean, a guy like Elsa, you're taking advantage of their urgency. Remember now, there were people kind of wondering why they ain't trading him last winter, and their thinking was, we think we can get more for him at the deadline than we can in winter. And I think that's going to prove to be correct. I think whatever they get for him in 10, 12 days here will be more than they would have got this past winter.
Bob Nightingale with us on KMOX. Do the Cardinals have too many DHs? What could they do with some of the younger? We talked about some of the veterans, but some of the younger players. Do you see anybody on the move? Not here at the deadline necessarily, but in the offseason.
I think the offseason for sure. I mean, whether it's a Herrera, listen to guys, listen to what teams might offer for Walker, that sort of thing. So, no, I think, when Ty Bloom, comes in, well, he's already there, but once he runs the whole show by himself, then I think everything will be on the table. They'll listen to everybody, and then you have it. You don't have just the contenders looking at these guys. You have the teams that aren't contenders. That's why I think you'll have much more trade value on those type of guys come wintertime.
Bob, what do you think the perception is around the rest of the league as far as how decisions are being made at the deadline in the Cardinals front office? The balance of decision-making power between John Mozeliak, Chaim Bloom, or maybe other parties who would be involved?
Well, I mean, John Mozeliak's going to Colorado. Obviously, he's from there for this 3-game series. I think if, Mo had his brothers, he'd like to keep the team intact or maybe even add. This is last year's GM, so it makes sense. Where you're Chaim Bloom, you're looking for 2-3 years down the road, and these aren't his guys. Realistically, probably not going to make the playoffs. So he's looking more toward the future. But I think because Chaim Bloom's going to be a guy in the future that Mo would defer to him. I don't see any kind of clashing or anything like that. I think Mo's big hope was hope the team stays in the race, so we don't have to trade these guys. We have a series like these did coming out of Phoenix. It's almost like the writing's on the wall, and I think the players know that.
We have about a minute to go with Bob Nightingale, who's kind enough to join us. And you mentioned the Yankees. Obviously, they're desperate to get themselves back to the postseason in what has been a pretty wild AL East. Is there anybody as desperate as they are out there right now? Obviously, every contender is going to be looking here at the deadline in 10 days or less.
Yeah, I think about 3 or 4 teams. I think the Cubs are desperate. They got to get another starter. I mean, here's the Brewers tied with them now, but the payroll is about $90 million less. The Blue Jays have got all the Canada excited. They can't stop now, and they got to go get another starter. Seattle Mariners got to go get a hitter. You're talking about some GMs and stuff that are on the hot seat. In Chicago, Jed Hoyer last year was contract. Toronto, Mark Shapiro last year was contract. I think expiring contract also in Seattle. So, no, I think those teams will be very aggressive. In San Diego, the window's starting to run out there for those guys. I think A.J. Pello will be aggressive, too.
Yeah, look at San Diego sitting 3.5 out in the division. The Dodgers starting to fall apart here, and the Padres gaining ground on them. Bob, always appreciate you. USA Today's baseball columnist has fresh content constantly on social media and on their site. Thank you for being with us on KMOX's Gashouse Gang. We'll catch up with you soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Nate.
Bob's always on top of it, Bob Nightingale. So is Nate Gatter.
I try.
You do. And you do well. And Matt Pajeski, our fine producer. Tomorrow, Ollie Marmol, live at 12:05 with Bernie Miklasz, Tom Ackerman, Chris Ranji on the Gashouse Gang. We'll see you later. Cardinal baseball tonight.